Entrepreneurship, at least in the young generation, is considered to be sexy and cool and things like that. I would definitely advise against that. And culture is what people do, it's not what people say. But my skills are more into like being a professional troublemaker. I like change. I like challenges. I don't respect authority. And I knew that if my big ugly face is gonna show up in the magazine, my parents are gonna take that magazine and brag to all their friends like, ah, look at my kid, he's in a business magazine. I have no idea what he's doing, but these people think he's brilliant. My thinking was like, if I get to, I don't know, 70 years old and I look back and I'm gonna tell my kiddo that, you know what, daddy had this great idea when he was 30, 40, but the job was so comfortable and he wanted to keep supporting you and mommy, so he didn't do shit.
Awesome. Janta, I would request all of you to share. Please open your screens and please show your faces. That would be lovely. Awesome. Thank you very much. So I think even before I start, Vlad, I would want to do just a poor introduction of yours, whatever little I can. Right? So that let me start by that. And then the structure, the first 30 minutes, we'll be having a conversation, right? I'll try to understand, I'll ask you some questions. And in the last 30 to 35 minutes, the kids would typically ask you questions. They will start raising hands. I'll bring people in the spotlight and they'll ask you personal questions, whatever from your personal learnings, professional learnings, whatever they can be. They already have your profile. They've gone through it, right? So they have a sense of what they need to ask for. And in the last 5 minutes, we have this like a ritual, where we take a photograph and we double followers of every guest who come. And then they will post their learnings on LinkedIn.
Awesome.
So I'll double your followers. So that is something that they'll do. Awesome. Cool. So let me quickly start. Yes. So Vlad started his career by doing a bachelor in computer science from the University of Bucharest. Post that, I think he spent the next 10 years of his life being a serial entrepreneur. I would want everyone to be on mute, please. Thank you very much. Just a second, I'm putting this. Vlad, you can unmute yourself. Sorry. Zoom does not allow me the feature to keep. Yeah, awesome.
No worries.
For the first 10 years of his life, he has been a serial entrepreneur, starting companies like MetroMind, UberView. But after spending considerable time as an operator, which he obviously will speak about, he joined Hootsuite as the director of product in the B2B space. Just for context for everyone, Hootsuite did $270 million or more in 2023, right? It's a social media platform which allows businesses to manage their social media presence. That's the most dumbed down version of what they do, right? Eventually, after that, after spending 4 years over there, he co-founded Deepstash, which is a quality media and consumption platform where people essentially come in, they want to learn from new snippets of media, and they essentially curate different collections for you to read. They also summarize that and do a lot of things over there. So it is an easy platform to gain knowledge and wisdom that you can learn from Deepstash, right? Additionally, and one more very interesting snippet about Deepstash is that it's profitable from day one. It does, the last numbers that I have, they do almost 2 million plus revenue yearly, and they're based out of Romania. I think additionally, Vlad is a professor at BISM, which is Bucharest Institute of International School of Management. So Vlad, lovely to have you here. Thank you very much. Super grateful again. Thanks a lot.
Pleasure to be here.
Awesome.
Looking forward to your questions.
Yes. So I think I would quickly first want to start, and I would want to ask the first seminal question that I typically ask, and seminal questions are asked at the end, but I do ask them at the first question itself. The seminal question for me is that how do you define, like in your illustrious career over 17 years, you've been a product leader, you've been a serial entrepreneur, right? So I just wanted to understand, how do you define a great leader and operator, right? Who is a great operator? What are their characteristics, right? Where they should focus on? Because people have a lot of misconceptions. They think skills lead to a lot of great operating skills, right? And how do you do that? I think being an operator is also about how do you manage a team? How do you bring the right motivations? So I think what are the principles that you would want to focus on if somebody wants to be a good operator? And by operator, I don't necessarily mean a product manager. I mean a great marketing leader, great sales leader, whichever kind of leader that you would essentially have to have across. How do you do that? What are those principles and how do you define that? Yeah.
I'm not necessarily sure I'm the best operator. I think I'm an organized person. I stick to a schedule and stuff like that. But my skills are more into like being a professional troublemaker. I like change. I like challenges. I don't respect authority. I value independence and things like that, which are skill most commonly associated with entrepreneurs. It's it's so if you look at the companies that you respect, it's very rarely that you see a person who's like the visionary, the entrepreneur, the troublemaker, who's also like an amazing operator. Probably you can, I don't know, think of, I don't know, Bill Gates, maybe Elon Musk, but those would be the exceptions. I think the usual path to greatness is the match between someone who is very much interested in the day-to-day drudgery and getting the numbers up to the right, and the person who sets up the the huge milestones, that is, he's borderline crazy but somehow inspires people to go into this crazy adventure. So I don't know, the traditional example that I default to is Facebook. I mean, like Mark clearly is a visionary dude, but the success of the company, I would say, is equally due to someone like Sheryl Sandberg, which is the COO, and she's an amazing operator. Just looking at the achievements, so I would say, yeah, I try to do them both, but I would say I'm more on the long-term vision. What are we trying to do here? How do we shake things up? So yeah, ultimately, it comes to finding your own path and finding your own way. There are no clear answers. You might be an amazing operator. You might want to go on an adventure on a business side. That's totally up to you, and then you can play it depending on that. I don't expect for you, because I get the sense that most of you guys are young. It's fine if you don't know where exactly would you fit in the world. I would say that I kind of follow my psychological proclivity, and I explored different things. So I started my first company when I was in my second year of college, which um, was awesome, because when I was in college, I didn't have any responsibilities. There was no wife, kids, employees, people that I had a duty to support, let's just say. And I could go and be crazy. I mean, like, of course, spending time on, I don't know, business rather than college meant that I disappointed some of my professors probably, but I couldn't care less. The other part is probably my parents, and you guys are, as far as I understand the Indian culture, family is very important to you guys. So probably what your mothers and fathers think about your entrepreneurial adventures matter more. Um, but yeah, I started young, and I played with all sorts of things. I was an employee for 3 months, hated it, decided to try this entrepreneurial path. Thought it was a little bit cooler. I had some early success, some setbacks, but I sticked with it because yeah, kept me excited about the future. If you get up in the morning and you can't wait to do things in whatever job it is that you're having, that's a good indicator that you're on the right path. And I don't know, if you're in your early 20s, yeah, I mean, like, there's this dichotomy, like explore and exploit. um, I do tell people in the university, whenever I go and talk to them, and I talk to universities in London when I was living there, now in Bucharest, um, is that don't go into exploit mode early on. I think you're gonna close some potential opportunities. Explore when you're young. I mean, like, if you're trying to do lots of different things, by the time you might decide to exploit mode, like, I don't know, get the best job with the best paycheck ever, you will gonna command a larger amount after being, I don't know, trying maybe unsuccessfully to become an entrepreneur, because the skills that you will learn are going to make you a better operator, even if you fail. But then again, that takes some courage on your part. I don't think I'm a very courageous man necessarily. It's easy to look at my past and be like, oh, that's so crazy. I mean, you started your company in your early 20s and there was no, but I started my company in my early 20s, but that was year 2000. So in year 2000, for me, as a Romanian kid, there were no tech companies. Like, yeah, right now across our offices, there is a Google office, there's an Adobe office, there's like an Amazon office, there's like all sorts of tech opportunities. And there was none when I was a kid, when I was your age. So I had no idea what sort of a path I would have taken given your opportunities, and I'm sure like the type of opportunity that you guys have back home have exploded compared to your parents. So I would say that you guys taking that path, it would be way more courageous than what I did when I was young. Because for me, it's like, I don't know, work at a sucky job or try to do this other thing. I mean, like, I don't know what I would have done if like Google invited me to be, I don't know, like an engineering intern at their company. Maybe I would have taken it. There's a lot of money. I get some social status. It could have been awesome. Um, yeah, I don't wanna spend the whole session on this question, but
Yeah, but
um,
one interesting thing that I really want to ask you is that you kind of briefly touched upon that. I think in our country, unfortunately or fortunately, in whatever way, we have been evolving. Like it's like Romania, and similarly, India has been going through that booming phase. But I
yeah,
think the sheer reason around 20, 25 years back, our parents consistently pushed up for a cushy job because they wanted their children's life, and entrepreneurship was what was not
yeah,
really a thing for the masses. It was for
yeah,
people of certain geographies or certain particular backgrounds or something like that. How does, and today is a very, very different time, but that mindset has not necessarily changed that fast, right? So
yep,
how do you bring that courage, and how do you essentially figure out that this idea that I essentially am thinking about, because you don't know what you don't know, but you have that
yep,
conviction then and there that this makes sense. Maybe it makes sense. Maybe it might so happen that after 6 months it doesn't completely, and it's a completely
yes,
gone venture, right? So how do you bring that courage across, right? And how do you say, and I think the deeper question that I want to ask is, when you're an entrepreneur, I think failure happens at very frequent moments, right? And
right,
something and it doesn't go work. So how do you essentially deal with failure? And I've seen what really happens, especially in India. People either do entrepreneurships in two ways. One way is they are like a serial entrepreneur, and that is
mm-hmm.
built in them, right? So, and the other reason is because it's very, very glorifying and satisfying to show somebody that I was an entrepreneur, and eventually it's a gateway to get into a job somewhere, right?
Right,
So
right, right.
how do you essentially even balance that out, that feeling that if I do this, right, it's okay, it's completely okay, and even if I fail, that's completely. How do you gather that courage? And you kind of briefly touched about that.
Well, I don't have the right answer in my case. Um, I I reassured my parents that I know what I'm doing, and that I listen. I'm gonna finish this college thing, so don't worry about it. I never tried to explain to them and help them get it because I thought it was a futile task. um so yeah, I mean, like, that's what I did. I'm not sure what your situation is, to go on some advice, but I would say the other thing that you pointed is it's probably more relevant. I think becoming an entrepreneur or starting a project to win like a beauty contest, because entrepreneurship, at least in the young generation, is considered to be something, um, I don't know, like sexy and cool and things like that. I would definitely advise against that. I think treating this thing as a beauty pageant, like, I don't know, getting some money from some incubator, winning some awards, going on stage, doing pictures, I don't know, the whole shabam. I don't think it's not building any skills apart from, I don't know, feeding your narcissism. And second of all, yeah, that's not the right goal for starting something in the first place, whether it's entrepreneurship or I don't know, finding a partner. You don't marry someone because of how other people are going to look at your spouse. I mean, you should do it because you have an internal drive. I don't really like this person, but my friends think this girl is hot, so yeah, I'm gonna marry her. That would be such a stupid thing. But if you think about it, entrepreneurship, if it's working, it's still like we're talking 5-10 years commitments. In some cases, it's gonna take over your life. So it's probably similar to that. So treat it seriously. Do it for the right reasons. And if you have I don't know, good parents, and they may not understand what you're doing with whatever blockchain, AI, blah blah blah, but I don't know, my kiddo is working hard. There are people depending on him. Maybe there's something there.
Yeah.
That's how it was for me. And yeah, and in some cases, like I remember in one, when I was still young, there was like this business magazine that wanted to do an interview with me. And I have this aversion to, I don't know, like talking to press, because I think most of the journalists are kind of stupid. But I took that interview because it came with a photo shoot, and I knew that if my big ugly face is gonna show up in the magazine, my parents are gonna take that magazine and brag to all their friends, like, ah, look at my kid, he's in a business magazine. I have no idea what he's doing, but these people think he's brilliant. So yeah, for me, that was a case of doing something just to release the pressure valve.
Awesome. I think very beautifully you kind of put that across. And I think the very similar principles when you really want to kind of become a great operator, it should be your internal drive that I really
Yep.
love problem solving. I really want to add value to people's life. But I think I have two more questions to you and then one last question. And the second question that a third question essentially I want to ask you is, a lot of people, since you have been an entrepreneur, underestimate the power of culture, right? What are you promoting? Because you are not building stuff by yourself. You're not necessarily a one-man army. You have to motivate people of different skill sets towards a common purpose, that this is what we want to build, and people think differently. And if they are highly talented people, everybody comes with their opinion, everybody comes with their thought, right? So I think I really want to understand what is culture according to you, right? And when you build teams, right, either as a product leader or for that matter as an entrepreneur now, right, what do you look for in people, right? Does it go beyond than their academic qualifications? Is there something that is unique to people that you think about, that does this person have a drive, or how do you even test that, does he have the right drive, does he have the right value system, and things like that? Yeah.
So yeah, culture is how we do things around here. And culture is what people do, it's not what people say. I do I do make a great distinction between like what companies put up and like, oh, our mission, vision, blah 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 bullshit, and what actually, how the sausage gets made. That's the culture. Like you can say like, we respect our customers and customers come number one, but then when you get an email, a support ticket, is like, what does this sucker want? I mean, like, come on, leave me alone. So there's this discrepancy between the bullshit that you're telling to yourself and others and the reality. So evaluate culture based on the actions. So with that, I don't know, the attempt at the definition, early on, your culture is as good as you are. You are the stem of the culture, because the second person or the third person or the fourth person is gonna regulate their behavior based on the interaction with you as the founder or the co-founder. So what's important to you, what you focus on, how you talk, how you decide, it's gonna create the culture. And you can see that in bigger companies. I mean, like Facebook was famously ran by the mantra of move fast and break things, because it so happens that Mark was a hacker and a professional troublemaker. What would you expect? So I would say that small companies or startups in general are are almost identical to the internal value system of the people who started it. So then the question is like, am I am I am I showing my best self out there? Am I behaving the right way? I would focus more on that than into, I don't know, I think we need a document with our 5 values. Like, screw that. Like, write the document like 5 years from now when we already have a culture and we need to hire person number 110 and we need to kind of explain to him how things happen. But I don't know, in the first year, just be your best self and try to articulate what you want from other people. That's the most practical way I would approach it. So clearly, like a culture of a company where I was involved in the early days will have some particularities that relate to how I see things. As I'm sure the companies that you guys will build or will join early on are going to be influenced by your more moral compass, by your desire to I don't know, to have a certain status in the world and things like that.
Awesome. I think one or two things that I really liked about the thing is culture is how you behave. I think that's the first thing that what people, and there's this very nice book which I recommend to a lot of people. It is generally it's written on Visa, right? Where the founder speaks about that the first thing a leader does is manage oneself. That's the
Yeah,
first
yeah,
thing.
sure.
And then that oneself, and essentially when people say, and these local actions, that how conversations are happening with the CEO are actually the driving force for the global culture. That how people generally think it's just me talking to Vlad and that the conversation ends there, but its impact is, I think, manifold. People see that, they learn
Yep.
from that and things like that. Okay, cool enough. I think the last question that I have for you is, after you were working with Hootsuite, right? What made you jump back into Deepstash? And what, according to me, what is your mission and vision of Deepstash? I'll tell you why I'm asking this question. There's a reason I am asking this. The reason is because a lot of times these operators, and they come from different walks of life, different countries, different places, right? Everybody at some point in their life, when they have to communicate an idea, they essentially want to put across that this is my thought, right? And this is how I think about it, and this is the value problem. So how did you figure that out, that this is a big problem that I essentially, or even if it's not a big problem, it's relevant for a decent size set of people where I need to curate them, right? And how did you essentially then jump it across? And if you have to explain it to me, what is Deepstash? What does it does, right? Why did you build it even in the first place? And what is your
Sure.
essential goal? How do you do that? Yeah.
Yeah,
These are all
lots
potential
of
customers. Just saying, these are all potential customers. They
lots.
will check it out just after the
Yeah,
session. I promise
yeah.
you. Yeah.
Lots of parts to that question. I've by the time I decided to leave Hootsuite and start something new, I've been in the social media industry for more than a decade. That means building my own stuff, but also like engaging with the top players in the social media tech space, whether that's Facebook and Twitter and these other guys, which were our partners, not to mention all the clients which we were serving. So to an extent, I got a little bit bored. I had some very particular strategic proposals that I didn't see happening inside Hootsuite, and really the worry that I had was that I would become too comfortable. I mean, I had Hootsuite is such an amazing company. I was operating in a field that I deeply understood. I had a lot of historical context. My colleagues were amazing, so everything was just too good in a way, but not in a way that I felt like stimulating. And I don't know, I didn't feel like my curiosity tingle was going on and off as it used to be when I was an entrepreneur. It felt too easy. It felt weird. After, I don't know, years and years of like hustling and struggling and stuff like that, now I'm an executive and I do PowerPoints all day long, you know. Um, so that was kind of the the drive that probably I have to go back into the fray, because I feel that if I stay as comfortable, I'm gonna melt in a few years. I'm gonna lose all the grit. And being me, me and my co-founder Dan, we decided to do like a complete 180. So from a B2B SaaS, big data, blah, blah, we decided to do like a consumer mobile app, because we both felt an attraction to the problem. Again, we've been seeing like the social media space and the effect it had on people. Like, we've been part of the factory, and we wanted like something that was a little bit more healthy, and that will bring value into people's life. And we were both like avid readers. I do take like a lot of notes, and yeah, I noticed like in all the companies that I was part of, people were asking me like, how do you know so much, and where does this come from? And um, being such an organized person in terms of like collecting knowledge and stuff like that, I was always like, that's from that book, and these are the KPIs, and here's an example, and stuff like that. I realized that at least in aspirationally, a lot of people will want to work with information like that, but it's just too hard. Nobody has the maniac I don't know, instincts that I have. So it was like, let's try to do it, and to do it in a social way where people like myself can curate information like I'm doing right now, but make it socially and put it on mobile, because that's where most of the that's the platform of today, and probably the near future. So that was kind of the drive. Like, I'm getting bored here, I want to get back into the messiness. And this is a problem that I can't stop thinking about. I think that, by the way, that's like probably a good test of like what to pick. In my case, I picked a problem that obsessed me. Like, I was taking a shower and thinking about this one, and then I'm like, probably it's stupid. I mean, like, the educational market is not something that I should get into. Let me think about something related to, I don't know, like blockchain. Blockchain, for example, is more of it's very dear to my heart, because politically I'm more of a libertarian, and I'm all freedom. So I like blockchain, but it's like, why do I keep coming back to this educational thing? And I don't know, you fight it for a month, you fight it for 2 months, you fight it for 3 months, and then it's like, fuck it, let's explore this, because I can't stop thinking about it. So that's how Deepstash got started. I'm happy that there are so many people who are enjoying what we're doing, and I hope to continue to develop the product further. But yeah, it's a labor of love more than anything. It wasn't. I didn't started it with, I don't know, like a very systematic market analysis and doing like the sizing the opportunity and stuff like that. It was like, no, I care about this problem, I would like to fix it, I have the luxury to attempt it, because I had an exit. I'm not gonna I have a house, I have my wealth is being secured. So my thinking was like, if I get to, I don't know, 70 years old, and I look back, and I'm gonna tell my kiddo that, you know what, daddy had this great idea when he was 30, 40, but the job was so comfortable, and he wanted to keep supporting you and mommy, so he didn't do shit. I don't think I would have been proud of myself or be a good example to my
That
kiddo.
is such a nice thing to say. And the thing that I always felt, because after spending so much time, and I have been honestly, even before I got to know you, I have used Deepstash to some level. But the reason for me was because I am an avid reader myself, right? And I read a lot of
Mhm.
books. And to acquire those wisdom nuggets, it takes tons and tons of time, because you have to discover,
Yeah.
to figure out what's the content that you like, what idea resonates, and then you do deeper discovery on it. And I always used to ask this question, that why are there no platforms which really do this well? That this is some great article on discovery. How do I find
Mhm.
it out? Unless I hear it from 10 friends or something like that, it becomes very hard. Or I am a deep researcher, and people generally don't put that effort. That's not, they want it
Yeah,
easy.
yeah.
But I think I was, before the session, I was talking about earned privilege. And I think wisdom is earned privilege in life, because you have to put that effort, but it's a great thing that you're doing. Awesome. So what I would do is, people start raising your hands. I would essentially start putting across, yes, yes, you can start raising your hands, and I will just bring you in the spotlight. Yes. Go for it, Suraj. Yes.
Hey Vlad, I think we've interacted. I think uh, first things first, Deepstash is one of the first products that I actually paid for. I have never paid for any product, and it engaged me so much.
Oh,
To
that's
be honest,
awesome. Thank you.
yeah. So and I had a 125, 130 day streak on Deepstash, like using it every day for
Awesome.
15,
That's
20 minutes.
awesome.
So
Congrats. Yeah.
my question is more towards how do you think about what you need to add to the product, or how do you make it better? Do you do user interviews? Do you look at competing products? How do you sort of take a decision that, okay, we want to have this X feature to solve this problem? Where does it come from? How do you sort of think about it?
Yeah, we do all of the above.
Okay.
But this is one of the lessons that I had in moving from B2B to B2C. So in B2B, where is kind of like where I started with this, the feature requests are much more focused on specific jobs. I mean, there's an art in understanding that, and there are like books written on how to do that. It's part art, but they're quite functional. I mean, like the person needs this, and he or she can clearly articulate what the problem is. And if you're a good product manager, operator, you can ask the right question, figure out what the business value is, prioritize using whatever methodology. So it's a solvable problem. When it comes to a consumer product, especially one that is touching what people consider to be meaning in their life,
Yeah.
and things like that, you will, or I don't know, we found that people have trouble articulating what it is that they want or what they mean. We were joking around the office that if you ask people what they want when it comes to like their personal growth, they're gonna say, I want more money, I want a six pack, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, we all want to be billionaires with six packs, but that's not very useful or actionable if you think about it. Of course, I'm exaggerating for comedic purposes, but people can't really say what the problem is. Like, why did you stop using the product? I forgot about it. And why didn't you like this idea? Well, I don't know. I don't know. It resonated. So there is this. I'm very much influenced by I don't know, like Eastern philosophy, like whether it's like Zen and Buddhism and stuff like that. And there's a concept in Zen that reality is beyond words. And I think the reality that people express has nothing to do with the rational part. And when rationality kicks in, we're just making shit up. Our brain is not the CEO of our body, it's like the PR department. So when we're being asked about like what would make you happy, we just make shit up. And I think that's the problem. So then how do you make progress with a product like ours? um, you ask questions related to the other person, not necessarily related to the interaction with your product. So you try to understand who the users are and what do they come from, and try to understand like what's behind that. And by the way, in our case, surprisingly enough, the I would say the core driver is not I want to become like a walking library or I want to be smart. The emotional drive is it's more like mental health. Like I'm too distracted, I cannot focus, I have ADHD, I feel like I'm missing out. So these are very like emotional drivers that get someone to use Deepstash and like our product. So that's the mindset that people come approach our product. And that's true, by the way. And you can find that after you talk to 5, 10, 100 people, and you ask them about like how their life is and how do they discover your app, and like what job do they have? Are they married? They're not married. What's their age and stuff like that. We also read and replied to hundreds of thousands of reviews into the stores, and we read everything that people say there until we start to find some patterns. So assuming you have like a theory of what the cohorts of your users are and what's the, then you start with a put some hypotheses. Like I think that if we do this, then this will happen. So and these, where do these come from? We just made them up. We are creative people. I mean, like David Deutsch has an amazing book. It's probably one of the most amazing books that I read. It's called The Beginning of Infinity, and he talks about the difference between empiricism and how the scientific method works. And he starts with the idea that we starts with conjectures. You have to put something forward. Like I believe that, I don't know, the sun out there is actually like a fiery bowl into the sky. And then the problem is like, how do you prove it? And when you're building like a consumer product, the what we're trying to do is try to prove or disprove this theory by building something very, very small but meaningful still, putting it out there, run an experiment and see if you are right with the hypothesis. And if you are right, then keep on iterating on your discovery. If you're not, kill it. And this is probably one of the psychological important psychological traits that I emphasize when building consumer products. Is like 90+% of your thoughts or your ideas are not going to work, and you have to um, I mean, if you get to a this is good or bad answer in days, rather than, I don't know, months or years, that's good. Like I had this idea, I tested it out, didn't work out, and I found out in 3 days. Like holy shit, that's amazing. Rather than I don't know, I wasted like a year chasing something that has no relationship to reality. Hopefully that wasn't too philosophical.
No, that's great. I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think you spoke about true discovery only. That's what I
Yeah.
tell them. That I think the focus is way more on the problem space, that you consistently think about who is my consumer? Why am I building this? Why does it make sense to his life? And once you consistently speak, I think one of the very interesting things with which people generally fail, and I think you would agree over there with me, is that the true experience is primarily in anecdotes. How that one
Oh
person
yeah, yeah.
comes to you and he's speaking to you that, oh, this changed my life in certain such. And then when those anecdotes pile up, that essentially tell you that something good is happening, right? People
Yeah.
generally have the opposite notion. They look at metrics and then they try to understand, okay, this metric means, okay, my customers are really, really happy, which may happen in certain cases. But then again, anecdotes are a very good way of figuring that out. Awesome. I
Oh
would,
yeah, like
yeah.
definitely like metrics. It goes back to the whole empiricism versus the other. But I used to believe when I was probably, I don't know, older than you guys, that if I have access to data, then the path forward, it's gonna be clearly laid out. Like, because I have all the freaking charts and I can do all the like segmentation and stuff like that. But what you notice the first time when something goes up or down or spikes, or the question is like, why did that happen?
Yeah.
And answering that question, it's very hard. It's important, and in most cases, if you go to the bottom of it, the answers are gonna surprise you. So for I just an anecdote, because you mentioned anecdotes, so I'm gonna give you one. But it was it was I was running Uberview at the time, and we noticed that we launched the tagging feature, which allowed you to tag some things. Our idea was that,
Yeah.
I know, someone in customer service or someone in sales can tag these things, and then we can route them to some sort of like a CRM, and very useful feature, right? A lot of customers asked for it, and we launched it, and a few weeks later it spiked. I mean, like we had hundreds of thousands of these being tagged every day. And the interesting part was that we didn't build any automation. That was, I don't know, early 2000s. So you had to manually go and click, 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 click. And we were like, holy shit. I mean, like we hit gold. I mean, like a bunch of people are doing this. This is our most important feature and stuff like that. And we could have leave it like that. I don't know, like send celebratory messages to everyone, like we're the best team, Champions League, stuff like that. But then we started to dig into the data, like what's happening here. And then we segmented the data and was like 90% of it happens in Brazil. Brazil. I mean, like we had no idea we had so many customers in Brazil. Like, okay, what's happening in Brazil? And then there were 5 companies or something like that that did most of it. We're like, how many people do these companies have? I mean, like they are labeling like hundreds of thousands. Doesn't make any freaking sense, you know? And again, we tried to do segmentations, do a bunch of that. We had brainstorming sessions, like what might happen, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know if it was me or someone in the team. It's like, let's just call them up. Which we did. We called them up and we asked them, like, we've been seeing you guys are tagging a bunch of these things. Like, are you mad? Like, why are you doing this? I mean, like, don't you have anything better to do? And stuff like that. And the answer had to do, like, these companies were working for some political parties. Yeah, so it was something that we had no idea we were serving. And there was a new law in Brazil asking to trace all the social media posts and stuff like that for them to get whatever grant. And they were staffing these teams with interns who were like little robots, and they were using our product. So I mean, the explanation surprised us, and it is the sort of explanation that you have to be curious and frustrated to figure out what the hell things are happening the way they are happening. So yeah, the charts cannot tell you the story. They can just invite for further exploration.
Awesome. I'll bring Neha to the spotlight now. I'll just remove you, Suraj. Give me a second. Yes, Neha, go for it, please. Yeah.
Hi. Hey, Vlad. Thank you. Thank you. You're really good at storytelling, by the way.
Thank you.
Okay, so my question to you is, as you said that, like in the start, that you said you practice independence in your organization. So then I believe people might be having different views, right? So I want to know, how do you deal with the disagreement while you have to take a decision and you have to practice something, with respect to your product or something like that? So essentially, when people are not falling in the same bucket as you are, how do you deal with those sort of disagreements and then come to the consensus? Okay, this is what we have to do.
Well, yeah, this is a probably a particularity of mine. I invite disagreement. If there's one thing that I don't like is yes men. People who are like, yes, boss, I'm gonna do it like that. No, we should fight a little bit. Like you are here because you have a point of view, and it can't be that your point of view always matches mine. So yeah, I do respect people who, as the Americans would say, you have to fight for your right to party. So I think, yeah, creative disagreement should be the core of a healthy early team. But then again, we have to make some progress. So at the end of the day, I would say what I try to do most of the time, I'm not always doing it, reflecting on it, is disagree but commit. Like, who's in charge of it? If you are in charge of it, I can disagree and you can listen to my arguments, and if I can convince you, then I would expect you to change the plan. But if you think my arguments suck, go ahead, do it, and I'm going to support your plan fully, and you will do the same thing in the other direction. So we operate as a team, but inside, yeah, we fight all the time, and that was kind of the vibe in all my companies. I have this idea, you think it's stupid, and I try to convince you, then you try to convince me. Of course, happening over many days with lots of people. Yeah, ideally, as we grow and mature, we are supporting our proposals with data, but that's also like a double-edged sword, because
Yep.
I was joking that if I want to convince people to go in a certain direction, I'm going to produce as many charts that go up to the right that tell that story by ignoring all the others that don't. So yeah, you can definitely lie and manipulate with data, or at least cherry pick the data that would suggest the path that you prefer.
And
But then again, that's more
yeah,
of a cultural thing. Exactly. I mean, like there are companies where there's a boss and he dictates what you should do and you should do it. And another thing that I kind of say is there's this song by Mike Mill, a rapper, and it's called Respect the Game. So I think that assuming the game is well presented and transparent for everyone, as long as you're in the game, you're going to respect the game. If I'm in a company where everything comes from the boss and we do what he says because that's the company, then I can choose to be part of that sort of environment or exit. I think those are the two options. I can't stay in an environment that doesn't match my values and then be like, oh, this is so bad. Like, I don't believe people are operating this way. What are you doing there? And by the way, I mean, the type of company that I'm part of, it's not universally loved. I mean, like, there's a lot of people who have left my projects because of high intensity. I mean, like if we disagree and you have strong opinions, that comes with responsibility. And the responsibility is not something that I don't know is very popular for people. Also, yeah, I mean, like if we disagree, I expect some argumentation from you and things like that. I would say this culture of disagreement and creative fighting, it's not as popular as it may seem, because yeah, the downside is responsibility and show don't tell and things like that come as a package with the disagreement.
Indeed.
I think I think this answer was full of wisdom. One thing that I would just want to tell you, Neha, is that this is something that I've also learned in the last 10 years as a whatever little operator I was that there are two kinds of criticisms. There's something called constructive criticism, then there's called destructive criticism. Constructive criticism, people like all of the team members, they're aligned towards a common purpose and they want to give their best. And that is something that should be fostered because that is where true innovation comes in, right? But eventually it happens in the room, right? Post the room, you're still friends, right? You're still going out, you're still hanging out, you're having a beer or whatever you want to do. And I think the second part is very, very critical, that if a certain autonomy is given to someone, that person takes that choice. So everybody as a team disagrees and commits and says, even though I don't agree, right? But since the accountability is with you and we believe we have given you that kind of autonomy, it's your choice and we will respect that. But we'll learn from it. Obviously, you'll make a better informed choice next time if it doesn't work out. And if it works out, great for everyone, right? Awesome.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yes, Apramya, I'll just bring you across in the spotlight. Yes, just a second. Go for it, Apramya. Yes.
Hi, Vlad. Thank you for talking to us.
Hey.
My question to you is, how do you see Deepstash evolving to address the potential challenges and opportunities which are posed by emerging technologies, which is constantly lowering the attention span of people? Since you've built a product which actually caters to that pain point, because nowadays the attention span is actually reducing day by day. So how do you see that as a problem, and how would you see Deepstash potentially solving that as the days go by?
Yeah, so we start with the assumption that that we're screwed. I don't think we can put the genie back into the bottle. So the attention span is pretty much gone. I think we're not necessarily building a pill that will I don't know, make you delete your Instagram account and go and read stuff from the library, so that's something that we kind of accept, but I don't necessarily take that the changes of the format and the medium has to stay the way it is. I think I'm hugely appreciative of the revolution that the mobile phone created. I think the speed of accessing information is awesome. So then the question is like, what do we do given all that? So our approach at Deepstash is to actually embrace it. We never fight I don't know, technology trends or psychological trends. But then the deal that we are offering to people who are considering us is like, you already spend all your time on whatever Instagram, TikTok, or whatever the thing is. And what you're doing there is you're entertaining yourself to death, and you're feeling that deep down. You don't have to explain. Most people have like a bad taste in their mouth after spending hours on social media. So you realize there's a problem with you. And our gives you quality information, things that can make you think, ideas. It brings you in contact with a community of like-minded people interested in their personal growth, and you don't have to go to monk mode. We're not asking you to go to a library. It's like, our app, it's quite lightweight. I mean, you can swap to cards, tap some buttons, get some blinks, animations, and stuff like that. It has the design elements that you would recognize from other apps. It's the content, the community, and the concept that are a little bit different. And for our user, I think that makes all the difference. So I'm not looking at all these things as like, oh my God, we're screwed. Like, because we're not trying to get people to read the Nietzsche cover to cover, or I don't know, read the Buddha texts. No, I mean, like, but what we're saying is like, if you're spending 5 minutes on Deepstash and you read 5 ideas and you think about them for 5 minutes, you will feel good about yourself, and you will grow way more than by scrolling Instagram. And by the way, this is not necessarily my opinion. It's like what our users are telling us. So how do we evolve moving forward? So yeah, we're embracing, and it's the same with like AI and with all these things. Like, well, what about AI? Like, wouldn't whatever the latest model be able to summarize the damn thing, and Deepstash is going to be useless? Well, yeah, but we're not a summary apps. We're not a. I mean, like, when you read something from Deepstash, when you read stuff that I put out on Deepstash. By the way, you should follow me. I'm Vladimir on Deepstash. I post the greatest shit. Anyhow, when you read my ideas on Deepstash, those are not like what ChatGPT told me to write. That's like, I've been reading this book, I've been watching this podcast, and I really like these 2 ideas, and this is how I understood them. So when you're reading my ideas, it's like the ideas that Vladimir had by consuming this piece of content. So it's like a symbiotic relationship between the original content and the curated ideas that come from my head. Now, so our approach is deeply human. It's fundamentally human. Now, can the AI make me a better writer? Can the AI help me express the thoughts in my head better than my poor English skills? Yeah, probably. Can it help me illustrate this with an image where it myself and other people can remember it and make it more engaging? Yeah, sure. So then again, technology becomes like an enabler rather than like, oh my God, we have to jump from this technological trend to this technological trend. I was never a technology hopper, although I understand that there are a lot of companies doing that. So I'm not, we should get into AI, blockchain, crypto, NFTs just because all the cool kids are doing it. If it makes sense, yeah, sure. If not,
I think Apramya, I think what Vlad said is something super cool. And see, the wisdom tree, right? Wisdom tree is typically that only comes after discovery, right? And that is why it is not just about you reading a great idea about by someone. If it's just here, right, it means nothing. You would not be able to apply it to real life scenarios, right? But the moment you actually discover and try to find the depth of that idea in a real life scenario, that is when your light bulb pops up. Oh, wow, this is amazing, right? And I think that is the beauty of this. And trust me, for the longest time, I have been this person who tried to find out great stuff at other places, and it took me tons and tons of articles to reach to that one article which really resonated with me and said, hey, wow, this makes so much sense, right? And if you can solve that problem, that's an insane problem to solve for. Awesome. Yes, I will bring Darshika now.
Thank you.
Yes, Darshika, go for it, please.
Yeah.
I'll come. मैं आपके पास आऊंगा. I just want to give chances before, और फिर मैं आपके पास भी आऊंगा. Yes, Darshika, go for it. Yes.
Thank you so much, first of all, for coming here and giving a talk. It really is amazing and insightful. I have one question. It's on the commercial side. So basically, how do you decide the pricing And if you want to change the pricing, how would you change it?
So how do you kind of,
Uh,
I think from a value point of view, she's saying, how do you kind of come to that value point that this is what my customer would really find it, even though the person might have not gone deeper into it. It's the first thing that the person says that I have to invest X amount to get this, but it may not so be well discovered that he understands the deeper point of it, that you really change as a person, you grow as a person. It's the first impression that you essentially see across. Yeah.
yeah, I would say when it comes to consumer products, people think in terms of categories. That goes back to kind of like the lack of self-awareness. People don't necessarily think of like, oh, I watched this documentary where, I don't know, some dude spoke and it changed my life. It changed my trajectory. And because it did so much for my life, I should probably have spent $100,000 on it because it had a huge impact and value of my life. No, they're thinking in terms of like, I'm watching Netflix, which is a streaming service, and streaming services cost between $5 and $15 a month, and this is what I'm willing to pay for it. um, um, people. We are social creatures. We are influenced by how other people think about it. So yeah, I would say you kind of have to think about what sort of category you're part of, and you'll see the limit of your pricing clearly. Then you can innovate on it. I mean, like, there's a lot of pricing innovation, um, not necessarily in the field that I'm in, but think about like gaming. I mean, like, gaming used to be like a traditional software monetary exchange, and then a few people thought like, why don't we give the game for free, and then provide super expensive add-ons for people who get addicted to our game. And that makes way more money than, but that was a risk. I mean, like, you have companies like I don't know, Riot Games with League of Legends and stuff like that, which are printing money. If you are to consider how much money they would have charged selling the game traditionally, it's way less than what they ended up with. But that's like pricing innovation. Not necessarily claim to be an expert into that, but yeah, high level, it's category driven.
Awesome. Awesome. Harsh, I'm bringing you in. I'm adding you to the spotlight. And Vlad, I would just need 10 more minutes of your time in the interest, not more than that. Just that 10 more
Cool.
minutes. I hope that would be great for you. Awesome.
Yeah.
Please, Harsh, go for it.
Hi Vlad, it's great to meet you. So I
Same.
have two questions which are interrelated. So suppose for a product which is very new idea in the world, there is no such existing service in the world. You can maybe take a example of launching aircrafts in the era of 1950s when there is no such service available. So at that time, there are no existing competitors. So how do you gauge when there is no baseline to compare with? And how can you inspire your investors as well to put money into such kind of service, which is not there in the world, and it's risky?
Show the problem, and if you're working on the problem, assuming this is something that it's not a hypothetical, but if you're working on a problem, on solving that, clearly you see the problem being meaningful enough, and that you want to devote your time on it. I mean, like, you're spending the most important resources, which is your time on it. So clearly you're seeing something. Then the question is like, how can you get other people to see the problem? I think understanding the problem is the step number one, and 80% of the challenge is like, I'm seeing a problem that other people are not seeing, and here is why this is something that you should care about as well. And if you do a good job with that, the solution is secondary, and not to default to, I don't know, like Eastern philosophy, but I don't know which master said that there's no difference between the problem and the solution. They are the same things, and if you understand that problem well enough, deep enough, then the solution is going to be it's going to come obvious. And that's kind of how I would do it.
Awesome. Anchal, I'm bringing you in. Can you please open your screen? Yeah, that would be lovely. Yes. Just a second. I'll remove the spotlight. Yes. Awesome. Go for it.
Yeah.
And you're in
Thanks a
mute.
lot Vlad, for sharing your experiences with all of us. So it's a pleasure to have you here. Two questions, Vlad, I would like to ask you. One is it regarding the user acquisition and retention, basically. So we both all know that it's one of the major key success in any product's growth, right? So basically, I just wanted to understand from you what sort of strategies you feel and have found most effective, right, in this aspect. And there is another question, typically very different from this, since it's a very competitive market, right? And burnout is a very common concern here. So I would want to hear your insights, like how you prioritize your self care and mental health amidst all these things, right? So these are two questions.
I don't think like when it comes to Deepstash, I don't think user acquisition is necessarily something where we've innovated per se. Compared to other products in the educational space, I think our advantage is that we are sort of like a social platform, and there is some organic invites, people inviting other people. That is definitely helping us. But in terms of other channels, I think we're as unique as everyone else. Um, in terms of what am I doing to protect my mental health, I think I have a very strict schedule. I get up at the same hour. I have to, I don't know, make breakfast for the kid. I exercise, I meditate, I run. I try to go to sleep with reading rather than, I don't know, watching screens. So I don't eat a lot. I only eat like one meal a day, and that's in the evening. So I do have some weirdness when it comes to what I'm doing. But yeah, I try to stick to a schedule as much as I can.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think
Great, great.
this very funny meme that you should really, there's this meme that what do you do? The person says that I look at a medium-sized screen to go back home to look at a large-sized screen and scroll
Exactly.
small screen. So
Yeah, that's
that is
pretty
not
much
what
it.
you should do. Definitely not what you should do. Honestly.
Yeah.
Okay. I will
Thank
now,
you.
Arjun, I'm adding you to the spotlight, please. And then I will take one more question, which will be, I'll take it from Varun or Nitish, either of them. Mohit bhai, in the interest of time, I would just take one more question because
Sure.
we are at the
No,
last 6 minutes. Yeah.
sure. Hi, Vlad. It was nice meeting you and talking to you. It is great to see how simple you deal with big things and the way you explain it. One thing I'd like to ask is there like I want to go back to when you thought about working on this idea, and what do you think is the exact problem that you identified at that time, and has the problem increased or has it subsided?
When
So
it
I
comes
think
to Deepstash or other companies,
yeah, he's
or
asking from Deepstash. So I think what he's asking is the idea that you thought that is the true problem. Has it really evolved over time and it has now become something else that you essentially do that? I think, is there a change log that has happened over time? That's what he's asking. That what you thought is the true problem, which you essentially need to solve for, has that also changed over the span of running this company?
yeah, probably. I think by putting the product out there and talking to so many people, we discovered that there are layers to the problem. And we're just, I don't know, going to deeper levels. So when we started out a few years ago, we have clearly we ran some tests, but our mindset was in terms of like information sharing. It was like the problem was, hey, the two of us talking, and I'm like, I've been reading this book, and you ask me what it's about, and the cars that exist in the app, it's like a digitized sort of an answer where we kind of have like a intellectual conversation on regarding our passions. So that was, and by the way, this is something that we observed in interaction, that we had interviews, so we know that these things are happening. The what we are discovering right now is that outside of the closed circle of friends, people are engaging with this sort of content for other reasons, or more deeper reasons, let's just say. I mean, they will clearly talk about it in the same terms, but when they talk about like the habit and I don't know, curing my ADHD and focus at work and stuff like that. I mean, like all of these are like weird. Like, what the hell? I mean, like we didn't build an ADHD product. I mean, like we're not psychologists here. Like you read a book, you save idea, I consume the idea, and we have a handshake and everything's great. What is this mental health that you're talking about? And of course, now we don't expect people to be able to describe it because it's a hard thing to describe. But yeah, we noticed that the benefit for a lot of the user comes into good habits, into, I don't know, instilling some sort of like a reflection. And you hear it with weird things. Like, for example, there was a user who complained to us that the phone turns the screen off when she's on Deepstash. And like we exchanged a few emails. I had no idea what she meant, and then I hopped on a call with her. She was an Irishman, I think, and she always like, show it to me, like show what the problem is. And like, I'm opening your app and like it stays there, and I read the idea, and wait a minute, if you wait like 2 minutes, the phone will turn off. And it was like, yeah, that's how operating system works, saves battery. You're not. And she's like, yeah, but I was reading that. And like, how long does it take to read the damn idea? It's like it's a larger tweet. It only has like 140 characters. Like, what do you mean? And she was like, yeah, but I'm thinking about them. What? Like, I'm reading an idea and then I have to reflect and think, and by the time I'm done with it, the damn screen turns off. and again, that's one of the anecdotes where it's like, what the hell are we doing here? I mean, like, I don't think this lady is learning to pass her school class or something like that. I think there's something deeper. And of course, I'm not say we got to the bottom. Probably there's something even deeper, and I'm gonna explore it until I figured it out.
Awesome. Varun and Nitish, in the interest of time, I cannot take one more question because we are already overshot, and that's the time that I requested from Vlad. Well, I have one question for you. One last question. That is, so you talked about like you are into Eastern philosophy and you've spent considerable time over there. So what is a good person? I know it's a question that is very ambiguous, very philosophical, but again, what is a good person according to you? So that's just my final question. If you can spend 30 seconds over there, that would be lovely for everyone to hear.
It's clearly subjective. I think the definition of good in society, it's very much socially influenced. So the stereotypical answer would be to list a bunch of attributes that define a person that we consider to be good. However, like if you go deeper to answer that question, which I don't think you can describe it in words that would make sense, that will take you on a journey. So I think like goodness is a journey more than a definition. And at the end of that journey, I don't think there will be an end, but through that journey, you will find glimpses that speak to you that you will not be able to articulate. And then the goodness is gonna, whatever the goodness is, which will vary from person to person, will translate in the actions that you do in the world. So I think that journey begins when you start to question your activities and your things that piss you off. Like, that person was an asshole, he talked bad, and then you try to reflect, meditate, like, why does that piss me off? Oh, well, because I'm quite angry myself. And so what does that say about it? I mean, like, I'm a hypocrite. And then you investigate that. So I'm sure you wanted a definition. I can give you the definition, but as with the previous question, I think that would be a little bit superficial. And
agree.
As the Zen masters say, reality is beyond words, and we can come up with words, but those are just the beginning of the journey.
Yeah, I think very similar thought. So the book which especially people in India, because most people come from the Hindu religion or the Sanatan religion, there is this one line that one of our lords, which is Lord Krishna, he speaks to Arjuna when he's giving the sermon to him, and he says, "True selfless action is its own reward." And that's such a nice thing to say, because people typically try. You can only control your actions. How do you become better, right? The outcome is never under your control. And if you really enjoy the action itself, I think outcomes are just a byproduct, which essentially come to you. But once again, it was such a lovely thing. As a customary, we do a small picture with the cohort. Yes, Janta, please show your faces. It would be super, super, super lovely. The two most ugly people are the speaker and the person who's asking the question. So if we can show our faces, very much you can also. Awesome. So at the count of three, we'll do cheese like this. 1, 2, 3, cheese. Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Once again, Vlad, it was such an honor. And I am pretty sure, Janta, for showing gratitude to the speaker, I need the feedback in the Slack channel, and as well as, please, the minimum account is go and subscribe to Deepstash. That's one. And the second thing is double Vlad's followers on LinkedIn. At least he should get one more distribution channel where he can speak about the ideas that he has. Awesome. Once again, Vlad, I am so, so grateful for taking out the time. This has been such especially for me also as an entrepreneur, because I have ventured into the journey after like 9.5 years in this ecosystem. So
Awesome.
Learn from you, and we'll be in touch. And I would just send all the feedback to you also. And please go for it. Awesome. Thank you very much. Awesome.
Thank you, guys. You've been very engaging group.